This is an exercise in basic graph reading, but there are a little bit of tricky parts to this. So let's look at this, right? So this is what the wave looks like on the string at time is 0, and then 2/10 of a second later, of course, this peak has moved from here to here, right? Okay, so what's the amplitude? Well, I don't want to spoil that. Read it off the graph. This direction here is going to be the amplitude. What is that? Read that off the graph. Okay, what's the wavelength? Well, that's a little tricky, right? The wavelength is the length of the wave, right? So here we are at a peak, and here we are at another peak. Figure it out from the graph. It's going to be in the x direction. How far over is it, right? Okay, the speed's a little bit tricky, right? So here's this peak here, and then at that time, at 0.2 of a second, it's here, right? So figure out how far this thing moves from here to here and divide it by time. So the velocity is just going to be s divided by time. So figure out how far. You also could do this. You could do, here's this downward sweeping thing is exactly 2, and it might be easier to read rather than where the peak is, right? And, from here to here, right? How far does it move this way? It might be easier to read where that thing is, right? So how far did it move from here to here? Read the graph. Read the graph carefully, right? And you're going to go, what, x minus x over, and then the time will be 0.2 seconds. Okay? And that gives you the speed of it, right? Now I'll give you a clue. The speed is somewhere between 0.1 and 0.2 meters per second. Okay? Yeah. 0.1 and 0.2 meters per second, or it could be between 10 centimeters per second and 20 centimeters per second. Okay, I did it in meters per second, but there you go. And then it says, what's the frequency, right? Well, the frequency is going to be we're going to use v as f lambda, right? Okay, and the velocity you just got, so plug that in right there, right? And then what do we have for the frequency? I guess we don't know the frequency, right? But we do know the wavelength, right? So we're going to plug in the wavelength. Make sure you are in the same units. So if you're using all centimeters, this needs to be centimeters per second, and that needs to be centimeters. If you do it all in meters, the wavelength needs to be in meters, and the velocity needs to be in meters, right? And you'll get a frequency, and the frequency is between, well, it's between 1 and 3 hertz, okay?